بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين. We ask Allah Ta'ala to grant us the sincere intentions. Not long after Isa alayhi salam kills ad-Dajjal, he receives revelation. He receives revelation that there are certain creations of Allah, a large group of human beings who have been released. وَلَا يَدَانِ لِأَحَدٍ بِقِتَالِهِمْ. Nobody will be able to fight them, because the Muslims at this point in time, they will be in a situation where they've fought many wars, so they will be used to combat. But it will be revealed to Isa alayhi salam that لا يدان لأحد بقتالهم. Literally, what it would mean is no one has two hands. That means no one has the power to fight them. فَخُذْ عِبَادِي إِلَى الطُّورِ. So take the slaves of Allah, take the Muslims to At-Tur. At-Tur is in Egypt, Tur Sinai. So Prophet Isa alayhi salam will go from there, from where he is, which is Al-Lud, or Lud, which is in Palestine, and he will travel south to, or in a southerly direction, to the mount of Tur Sinai. To summarize Ya'juj and Ma'juj, these are names of groups. Ya'juj is not the name of one person, and Ma'juj is not the name of one person. Rather, these are two groups of people and they are human beings. Okay, they are humans, they are people, but they are barbaric people. They are people who are not civilized. In the Quran, Allah revealed in Surah Al-Kahf the story of Dhul Qarnayn, this pious slave of Allah Ta'ala, who trapped the people of Ya'juj and Ma'juj between two mountains. And these people, we were told about them, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told us about them, that one of them does not die unless he sees 1,000 people from his offspring. So they are very large in number. Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he was taken to them on the night of Al-Isra, as part of the night journey, which ended with Jerusalem, Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, and then the ascension to see the great signs of the power of Allah. He saw Ya'juj and Ma'juj and he called them to Al-Islam. But they refused, and hence they are accountable. They tell their children that once we had a man called Muhammad come to us saying that he was the messenger of Allah and that we should worship Allah alone. But they refused then, and their offspring also refused. So they are kuffar, they are blasphemers. And they will remain blasphemers until they manage to exit that place that they are in. And Allah knows best where that place is. It's narrated that one of the companions of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam described to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam a place that he had been to. He described it to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet told him, because it was revealed to the Prophet told him that yes, you saw the barrier, that barrier between the two mountains behind which they were trapped. You saw the barrier. So they will be released. And the reason why Prophet Isa alayhi salam takes the Muslims to At-Tur is because it was revealed to him, and that's because nobody will be able to fight them. Firstly, because of the sheer number of them. Nobody will be able to fight them. The Prophet said alayhi salatu wassalam, حَتَّى إِنَّهُمْ لَيَمُرُّونَ بِالنَّهَرِ فَيَشْرَبُونَهُ. They would pass by these people. They would pass by a river and they would drink it all up. حَتَّى مَا يَذَرُونَ فِيهِ شَيْئًا. They would not leave anything in it. فيمر آخرهم على أثرهم فيقول قائلهم لقد كان بهذا المكان مرة ماء. The first among them would go, a large batch of them, and they would drink up what's in the river. And then when the last of them passes by that area, that one would say, there used to be water here. وَيَظْهَرُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ. They will make it to every part of the earth. فَيَقُولُ قَائِلُهُمْ هَؤُلَاءِ أَهْلُ الْأَرْضِ. They will cause havoc. They will attack villages, they will attack towns and cities. But the Muslims will be with Prophet Isa alayhi salam, safe away in At-Tur. When they conquer the earth, or the rest of the earth, one of them will say, we are victorious, we have conquered the earth. Then, now another sign that they are kuffar is that they believe, and you will see how that's very evident, they believe that Allah, or that God, is in the sky, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. And such is their nature. Remember, they're not beasts or animals, or like some people describe them to, which is not based on any valid narration. They describe them to be like dwarves or elves or with big ears, and they sleep on one ear and they cover their face with the other ear. And that's not true. Some people, they say things like that. That's not true. They are human beings. They have a language and so on. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. The Prophet told us about this, and the Quran, it told us about this. They will say, Faraghna minhum, we've got rid of the people on earth. Wala nunazilanna ahl as-sama. Now we will battle against, they will say, those in the sky, because they believe that God is in the sky, when Allah has always been without place. حتى إن أحدهم لا يهز حربته إلى السماء. So one of them, and this is a test for them, one of them would take his spear, one of Ya'juj and Ma'juj would take his spear and he would throw it into the sky, throw it into the air. He would hurl it into the sky. فَتَرْجِعُ مُخَضَّبَةً بِالدَّمِ. And this is a test from Allah. It would come down with blood on it. This is a test for them from Allah. Who did they strike? Nobody. The angels are in the sky. But so it would come down with blood on it. Sometimes when a person is misguided, or if they are a Muslim and they are engaged in haram, Allah facilitates, or rather trials a person by giving them more haram. If a person engages in acquiring haram money, getting their hands on haram money, and they make this their life, Allah gives them more and more and more, such that some people, they may begin to think that they are an accepted slave of Allah, when this is not the case. Allah revealed, سَنَسْتَجْرِجُهُمْ that Allah will give people like this more and more and more, and they will fall deeper and deeper into the hole that they are in. Like this is the case for when there are non-Muslims who, for example, the devil, he might show them something and they end up believing that this is a miracle. So then they fall deeper into their kufr that they're already in. So this is the case for Ya'juj and Ma'juj. So it will come down, the spear will come down from the sky and it will have blood on it. And then they would say, قَدْ قَتَلْنَا أَهْلَ السَّمَاءِ. We have killed the inhabitants, and here they mean the angels. We have killed the inhabitants of the sky. Then at this point, Prophet Isa alayhi salam, who is now with the Muslims in At-Tur, he will make dua. He will raise his hands and the Muslims will make dua that Allah rids them of Ya'juj and Ma'juj. إذ بعث الله دواب كنغف الجراد. Allah Ta'ala inflicts these people, Ya'juj and Ma'juj, with a worm. فَتَأْخُذُ بِأَعْنَاقِهِمْ فَيَمُوتُونَ مَوْتَ الْجَرَادِ. And it attacks their necks, and because of it they die the death of locusts. So you imagine that, the imagery of locusts on the floor. يَرْكَبُ بَعْضُهُمْ بَعْضًا. One on top of the other, because there are so many of them. They cover the earth. It's as though you can't see the ground or the sand or the grass on the earth because one of them is laying there. Men and women. فَيُصْبِحُ الْمُسْلِمُونَ لَا يَسْمَعُونَ لَهُمْ حِسًّا. Then after this, after the dua is made and the Muslims are inside, they don't hear anything coming from the outside. Even though they are in At-Tur, they are in a mountainous area. They don't hear anything after they had been hearing noises from the outside. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam, فَيَقُولُونَ مَنْ رَجُلٌ يَشْرِي نَفْسَهُ وَيَنْظُرُ مَا فَعَلُوا. Which person will go out and check for us? Which person, in one sense, will sacrifice himself to go out of the safety zone and check what has become of the people of Ya'juj and Ma'juj? فَيَنْزِلُ مِنْهُمْ رَجُلٌ قَدْ وَطَّنَ نَفْسَهُ عَلَىٰ أَنْ يَقْتُلُهُ. One of the people, he conditions himself, he tells himself that he's going to die. He said, I'll go, and he prepares himself that if I am to go and they're there, then that's the end of me. So he goes. فَيَجِدُهُمْ مَوْتًا. He finds them all dead. فَيُنَادِيهِمْ أَلَا أَبْشِرُوا فَقَدْ هَلَكَ عَدُوُّكُمْ. He says to the people, to the Muslims, glad tidings be to the Muslims. Rejoice. For indeed Allah has destroyed your enemy. فَيَخْرُجُ النَّاسِ. Then the people exit. وَيُخْلُونَ سَبِيلَ مَوَاشِيهِمْ. And they release some of the animals. فَمَا يَكُونُ لَهُمْ رِعْيٌ إِلَّا لُحُومُهُمْ فَتَشْكَرُ عَلَيْهَا كَأَحْسَنِ مَا شَكِرَتْ. So here, when these animals graze, when the animals graze, they will become fat. But when the Muslims come out, they find the stench of Ya'juj and Ma'juj, of decaying corpses. Those that are under the scorching heat of the sun, they would be decaying. Yes, perhaps those that are in the cold areas, they would not decay. But for the most part, this smog of stench, it would fill the earth. So Prophet Isa alayhi salam, and this harms the Muslims, Prophet Isa alayhi salam will make dua, and his dua will be answered. And it's narrated that there are birds that will come and they will take every single corpse to the sea. Which sea? Allah knows best. To the ocean, to the sea. They will take them away to a large body of water. By that we see the end of Ya'juj and Ma'juj. Then after this, a time comes where everybody on the earth is a Muslim. Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam said, فَيَكُونُ عِيسَى بْنُ مَرْيَمْ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ فِي أُمَّتِي حَكَمًا عَدْلًا إِمَامًا مُقْسِطًا. He said that Isa alayhi salam would be in my nation. He would be an upright, trustworthy leader. A just and trustworthy leader. When he comes, so this is part of what he will do, okay, when there are still non-Muslims. He will get rid of the cross, يَدُقُّ الصَّلِيبِ, وَيَذْبَحُ الْخِنْزِيرِ. He will get rid of the swine, he will get rid of pigs. وَيَضَعُ الْجِزْيَةِ. When he comes initially, and there's a lot of fighting going on, he gets rid of the jizya. The jizya is when a Muslim army would go to would face a non-Muslim army that were Christians or Jews. The Muslims, they would say to them, you have a choice. Either you surrender yourself to us and we don't fight, and you pay a certain amount, small amount of money yearly, and we will protect you. Okay, this land becomes a Muslim land, and we will protect you. You can keep your houses and everything. You've just got to pay a small amount. It's a very small amount actually, every year. And if an enemy comes upon you, we will protect you. It's our land now, and you will, and so on and so on. So there's an agreement. Either you pay the jizya, or we fight. So this is the rule in the nation of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. But the rule of the jizya, it lasts until Prophet Isa alayhi salam descends. So the rule in the religion is that the giving the offer to Ahlul Kitab of the jizya, it was from the time of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam all the way up until Isa alayhi salam descends. The rule in the nation of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam is that the rule lasts until Isa alayhi salam descends. When he descends, he will not offer al-jizya to anyone that he fights from Ahlul Kitab, meaning the Jews and the Christians. As for others, he won't offer them this offer of jizya. It's either you embrace al-Islam or war. So he will do away with the jizya. This is a special case. Then going now, forwarding to after Ad-Dajjal and after Ya'juj and Ma'juj, in the time of Isa alayhi salam, there will be the hate that people have for each other, the Muslims, the hate that they have for each other, the negativity that they have towards each other, or the jealousy that they have towards each other, the men and the women, and a brother to a sister, and a friend to another, and so on, a neighbor, and so on. All this will be lifted. This will be removed from the hearts of the people. The Prophet ﷺ said, وَتُرْفَعُ الشَّحْنَاءُ وَالتَّبَاغُضُ. This would be lifted. It would be taken away. This will be a very peaceful time. He said, وَتُنْزَعُ حُمَةُ كُلِّ ذَاتِ حُمَةٍ. That anything on the earth, among the beasts, among the animals and the insects that are poisonous, their poison will be taken away. They will not be given that. It will be taken away. حتى يدخل الوليد يده في الحية فلا تضره. Such that a young child would even be able to, were it to put its hand inside the mouth of a snake, it would not sting him. وَتُفِرُّ الْوَلِيدَةُ الْأَسَدُ فَلَا يَضُرُّهَا. And a young girl, a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, would be able at that time to chase away a lion, and it would not harm her. وَيَكُونُ, the Prophet said عليه الصلاة والسلام, وَيَكُونُ الذِّئْبُ فِي الْغَنَمِ كَأَنَّهُ كَلْبُهَا. And the wolf would be in the flock as though it's the sheepdog of the flock, meaning it wouldn't harm. وَتُمْلَأُ الْأَرْضُ مِنَ السِّلْمِ كَمَا يُمْلَأُ الْإِنَاءُ مِنَ الْمَاءِ. And the world would be full of peace, just as a container is filled with water. وَتَكُونُ الْكَلِمَةُ وَاحِدَةً. The Prophet ﷺ said everybody would be a Muslim. Everybody would say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. Just like the time of Idris, whilst Idris alayhi salam was alive, and those before him, Idris alayhi salam, Sheeth alayhi salam, Adam alayhi salam, Allah revealed, كَانَ النَّاسُ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً. That everybody at the time of Adam alayhi salam and his son Sheeth and his great-great-grandson Idris, everybody was Muslim at that time, the whole earth. Then after that, at the time of Nuh alayhi salam, or rather he was sent to some people who had become kuffar. So again, وَتَكُونُ الْكَلِمَةُ وَاحِدَةً. Everybody would be a Muslim. فَلَا يُعْبَدُ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. So no one other than Allah would be worshipped. وَتَضَعُ الْحَرْبُ أَوْزَارَهَا. And there will be no need for war. As for the ground, the land, it would be very fertile. وَتُنْبِتُ نَبَاتَهَا بِعَهْدِ آدَمَ. And it would be like it was in the time of Adam alayhi salam. It would be very, very fertile. حتى يجتمع النفر على القطف من العنب فيشبعهم. Such that people, they would eat from grapes. They would eat from grapes, and this would fill them from a single, let's say, bunch of grapes. And they would be so big, and they would be so filling that it would fill a group of people. A nafar is 4 to 7 people. وَيَجْتَمِعُ النَّفَرُ فِي الرُّمَّانَةِ فَتُشْبِعَهُمْ. And people, they would gather, a group of people of 7 people, they would gather to eat a pomegranate. وَيَكُونُ الثَّوْرُ بِكَذَا وَكَذَا مِنَ الْمَالِ. And the animals that are used for plowing, they would be very expensive at this time. Why? Because the land would be so fertile. Anything would grow on it. وَتَكُونُ الْفَرَسُ بِالدُّرَيْهِمَاتِ. As for horses, they would be very, very cheap, because horses would usually be used in war and so on and be trained, but they'd be very cheap because there's no more war. Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he will be among the people at this time. This would be a very, very blessed and peaceful time. After so much war and death, destruction, this would be a very, very peaceful time, but it would not last long. Remember how we said that there are 10 signs of the Day of Judgment, 10 major signs. The Prophet described them, alayhi salatu wassalam, like being like pearls in a necklace, you could say. If the necklace is snapped and you tilt it, one pearl will come off and the rest will follow in quick succession. Like this, he said, the major signs would occur. The small signs, most of them have occurred, right? About 40 of them approximately. And it's been in this nation about 1,500 years approximately for 40 signs. But when these 10 signs, when the first one occurs, which is the emergence of Ad-Dajjal, then the rest will happen in quick succession. Remember, Ad-Dajjal comes. He comes approximately 7 years after the emergence of Al-Mahdi. And Isa alayhi salam, he comes not long after that. A maximum of about 2 years or before that. When Ad-Dajjal comes, then Prophet Isa alayhi salam would come very quickly. Within 2 years he would come. And then while Isa alayhi salam is there, and that's the second sign, isn't it? So Ad-Dajjal, Prophet Isa alayhi salam. While Prophet Isa alayhi salam is there, you have Ya'juj and Ma'juj. That's the third sign already. Within the space of what? 7 years, 6 years? Then the rest of the signs of the Day of Judgment come. But Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he will live on the earth for 40 years. Some narrations say otherwise. Some narrations say 45 years. So according to the narration that he will live for 40 years on earth, that would mean that he dies at the age of 73, because he was 30 when he received revelation, he was 33 when he was raised, and when he descends, if you cancel out all the time in between and you add 40 years, that would be 73 years, and Allah knows best. But it's narrated that he would live on the earth for 40 years, that he would marry, and that he would have offspring. The Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam said, "La yaslukanna al-Masih ibn Maryam fajja." He said the Prophet alayhi salatu, Prophet Isa alayhi salam will take a route. He will take a path. Hajjan aw mu'tamira. Either he will perform al-Hajj, he will go to Mecca, or he will perform al-Umrah there. ثُمَّ لَيَأْتِيَنَّ قَبْرِي. Then he will come to my grave. Then he will come, the Prophet said, to my grave. The Prophet ﷺ, he explicitly said that he will come to my grave in the hadith. The Wahhabiyya, they claim that if one of us now says, I intend to go to the grave, to visit the grave of the Prophet ﷺ, they would say this is kufr. They would say to intend, wal-'iyadhu billah. They would say to intend to go to visit solely the grave of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, this is kufr. Wal-'iyadhu billah. They say, I intend to go to the masjid. I intend to visit the masjid. Don't say the grave, because that's kufr. Wal-'iyadhu billah. Where Isa alayhi salam, he said, or the Prophet said alayhi salatu wasalam, وَلَيَأْتِيَنَّ قَبْرِي, and surely he will come to my grave. That's why he's going to Al-Madinah, to the grave of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. The Prophet didn't say, وَلَيَأْتِيَنَّ مَسْجِدِي, he's going to come intending my masjid. No, he's going to come to my grave. A person known as Ahmad ibn Taymiyyah, he said this many hundreds of years ago. He said, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, that it is not permissible. And this is a false fatwa. This is a religious judgment given without knowledge. He said that it is not permissible for a person to intend to visit the grave of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, such that then the Wahhabiyah, they took from him and they began to say, anybody who is not from Al-Madinah, it is not permissible for them to travel to visit with the intention of visiting the grave of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. Well, what about Isa alayhi salam then? The Prophet said alayhi salatu wassalam, وَلَيَأْتِيَنَّ قَبْرِي وَلَيُسَلِّمَنَّ عَلَيَّ, that he will visit my grave and he will come to give me a salam, like we do, like the Muslims go and we stand in front of the chamber of Lady Aisha radiyallahu anha, in which you find the grave of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, and we say, Assalamu alayka ya Rasulallah. Like that, our Prophet told us alayhi salatu wassalam that Isa alayhi salam will come intending the grave. There's nothing wrong with that. That it's a very blessed grave. Some of the scholars said, where the grave of the Prophet is alayhi salatu wasalam, that place is better than the skies, the earth, the arsh and paradise. Some scholars said that the place where the Prophet is buried, that place that is touching his body alayhi salatu wasalam. Some scholars mentioned that. It's a very blessed place because the Prophet is in it sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Some people who do not understand the religious matters, the Wahhabiyah, they say if you intend to go to the grave, then this is impermissible. And some even say this is kufr, because they understand from that we somehow are worshipping the grave, which is nonsense. We worship Allah. If one of us was to be asked, does Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam deserve to be worshipped? We'd say, of course not. He's not God. Does the grave of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam deserve to be worshipped? Of course not. We worship Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. So Isa alayhi salam will go and he will give the Prophet salam. And the Prophet said alayhi salatu wassalam, وَلَأَرُدَّنَّ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ, and surely I will respond to his salam. Then Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he will die also. He will pass away. Where he will pass away, Allah knows best. But what has been narrated is that he will be buried in Al-Madinah, next to Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. So, in that area, next to Al-Rawdah Al-Sharifah, you would find the graves of our Master Umar radiyallahu anhu, Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, our Master Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, Sayyiduna Isa alayhi salam, and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The Prophet said that the Muslims, they would pray the janazah prayer for him, and this is to honor him, of course. The janazah prayer is prayed seeking forgiveness for the deceased. But the Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he doesn't need that, of course, because the prophets are the best of creation. Then after this, the other signs of the Day of Judgment would occur. There will be a point where some people commit kufr again. Because one of the signs of the Day of Judgment is that a beast will emerge from the earth, from the ground. And this beast will mark the people, mu'min, kafir, and so on. And the sun will rise from the west. And once that happens, then the doors of forgiveness are closed. No kafir is able to embrace al-Islam. No major sinner who had missed obligatory prayers or was a drinker of alcohol, if they now repent, it will not be accepted, because the doors of repentance will be closed. So, because of this, because Dabbatul Ard, the beast of the earth, will come out and mark the people after this point, it tells us that some people will commit kufr again. So the question for us is, are we doing what is sufficient to prepare for the descent of Isa alayhi salam? Because the scholars, they mention that it's not far off. One of the scholars, Sheikh Ahmed al-Barzanji, he said, and this is perhaps 200 years ago, he commented on this hadith in which Ad-Dajjal, he's on the outskirts of Al-Madinah Al-Munawwara, and he says to his disciples, هذا القصر الأبيض مسجد أحمد. This white castle, if you will, it's the masjid of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. He said that this is an extraordinary matter, this scholar. He said because at the time of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, it was not white, because it was made of it had palm tree branches on top of it in the Prophet's time. So he said, لَعَلَّهُ قَرِيب. Perhaps, therefore, it is close that Ad-Dajjal would come, because it's white now. So, how long is it going to stay white? It must mean that it's close. So since then, about 200 years passed. Since then, since he said that, about 200, or a little less actually, about 100 years, 150 maybe even, passed. So, and many of the things that we've been commenting on and mentioning as signs of the Day of Judgment, they have occurred. And you can see things globally, if you will, are getting worse, subhanallah. And they will get worse, as the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam, until a certain point. Until that point when Prophet Isa alayhi salam and the people are living just before his passing. You imagine at that time, one of the narrations says that people will sit and they will seek shade from the sun while sitting in the peel of a pomegranate. So imagine how large that pomegranate has to be for a group of people, not just one person, for a group of people to sit in it. Anyway, finally, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, إن الملائكة وأهل السماوات والأرض, that indeed the angels and the inhabitants of the sky and those that inhabit the land among the animals, حتى الحوت في البحر, even the fish, and there are millions of fish, and even the fish in the sea. وَحَتَّى النَّمْلَةَ فِي جُحْرِهَا, and even the ants underground. لَيُصَلُّونَ عَلَى مُعَلِّمِ النَّاسِ الْخَيْرِ. The angels that reside in the skies, the animals on the earth, the fish in the sea, even the ants that are in the ground, in their burrows, if you will. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, that they make dua for a person who teaches Islamic knowledge. If one hears that hadith, a person, one cannot imagine that a person would hear that hadith and not want that for themselves. We go to the pious people to ask them for dua. We search for people, we pick out certain people to ask them to make dua for us because we believe and we hope that their dua is accepted. Sometimes you have to go out of your way to ask. Look at the situation where the fish in the sea, they ask Allah, Allah gives them the ability. Just as on the Day of Judgment, the kuffar will have their mouths sealed and their hands will speak, and other parts of their body will speak and testify against them. The earth, the ground will speak. Like that, Allah gives the ability to these creatures to make dua for the person that teaches the Islamic knowledge. How can a person hear that and then not want that for themselves? So if a person wants to become part of this hadith, wants to benefit from what the Prophet mentioned, and who would not want to benefit? A person needs to prepare for that. How do they do that? They make sure that the religious knowledge that they have learned from a trustworthy and reliable source, they have these notes organized. Firstly, they make notes. Secondly, they organize them. And then they start to teach at least one person. It might be a friend, it might be a sibling, it might be a colleague, because this is something that is very, very, very honorable. Very honorable. And it's a good deal. It's a win-win situation. It's so rewardable. If a person thinks about the reward in the hereafter and the good deeds that they could acquire, this is one of those things that they should have on like a to-do list of things that I've not done yet in my life and that I should be doing so that I can acquire more good deeds before I die. This is one of those things, without a doubt. Initially, for a lot of people, it's that first push, oh, how am I going to teach? How am I going to teach that person? I'm not really. But this is how then the devil enters, because the devil doesn't want good for us. It doesn't mean that a person has to go now and get a certificate that says that you can teach this person and that person. No, a person acquires religious knowledge and they start teaching it, like the companions did. None of the companions had a degree in teaching or delivering religious knowledge, but the Prophet ﷺ said to them, بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً. Spread, convey from me, even if it's one ayah, even if it's one hadith, even if it's something beneficial, convey from me. That's how religious knowledge is spread. Religious knowledge is not spread just by mentioning stories. You see how we've been through speaking about Prophet Isa alayhi salam, but in between we've been mentioning religious judgments. If a person doesn't write these down, then it goes. I'll give you an example. If we go now from the beginning and we start mentioning the signs of the Day of Judgment that are left, okay? and I ask you, okay, can you give me them in some sort of chronological order, without missing any of them? Even though we just started yesterday, we finished today, right? I don't think that everybody would be able to mention all of them, right? If things aren't written down, we forget them. And if you're not reminded about taking this opportunity for yourselves to teach, then if you don't take this opportunity now, then it might not present itself again. A person doesn't need to be, in these times, a scholar to teach. None of us are scholars. A person doesn't need to be a scholar to teach. I hear something from my teacher, I wrote it down. I know that's exactly what he or she said. I checked it. I have a good amount of notes on a particular topic. I want to teach it to somebody. So I have someone who I say, I want to share something with you, and I share it with them. I get them to write it down. Like this, like the Prophet advised, alayhi salatu wasalam, that knowledge is by learning. In a hadith, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, what means that you need to strap your knowledge down by writing it. And this is narrated from some companions as well. You need to strap the knowledge down, just like if there was an animal that you were hunting, prey. If you managed to catch it and you tied it down, even if you go away for a while and come back, it will be there. Like that, Sayyiduna Umar radiyallahu anhu, the second Khalifa, he said, قَيِّدُ الْعِلْمَ بِالْكِتَابَةِ. Strap your knowledge down by writing it. So don't miss out. Don't miss out. Make sure you have a notebook. You know what, unfortunately, what a lot of people did was, in our community, a lot of people, because they got used to going to the masjid and being entertained by the speaker who was shouting and screaming and maybe telling a joke and not reciting the Quran properly and so on. People got used to that entertainment. That's why they would go. And nobody told them, bring a notebook with you, bring a pen with you, write it down. Nobody taught them what the Prophet taught his nation, alayhi salatu wassalam, of how knowledge is acquired. You don't sleep and wake up and suddenly you know everything. It doesn't work like that. You have to learn it. Just like one of us goes to school or one of us goes to college or university. We learn and we have exams. That's how religious knowledge is as well. That's how you strap it down. But people don't give it as much importance. And they will then bear the brunt of that on the Day of Judgment when they think that they will have lots of good deeds, but they find out that most of their deeds, their acts of worship were invalid because they didn't learn. So do take advantage of taking notes. Do take advantage and implement teaching, because it is very, very rewardable in these times. Barakallahu feekum. We'll stop here today, inshaAllah. Let's say La ilaha illallah and as-salah ala nabi. La ilaha illallah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim.